Imagine that all people had enough water to meet their
I
needs.
see a future where the human right to water is realized.
A world where people and nature have the water that they need.
Water touches everything we care about.
Water really brings us together.
Water is key to everything we hold dear. It's life, it's the economy, it's nature, it's really everything, and it's at risk right now.
Pacific Institute was one of the first entities to really understand and emphasize the impacts that climate change would have on water resources. So their consistent discussion and communication on this topic helped others realize how quickly these water resources were degrading, and really helped develop some of the first steps and some of the strategies to try and begin addressing some of these challenges as climate change progresses.
Water is the face of climate change, the bleeding edge of climate change, because it's where climate change's impact is felt first. Impacts that have been predicted for decades and are now happening even sooner than predicted. We're facing an even more overwhelming crisis that we're not really prepared to deal with.
If you look around the world, you'll see the water crisis play out in so many ways. The shrinking of the Amazon forest, drying up rice paddies in India, women and girls around the world trekking further and further just to get water for their daily consumption. No matter where you are in the world, we do all face water shortages in some way, shape, and form.
The Pacific Institute is my kind of organization. They are visionary, they're strategic, they get into the weeds, they get into the data, they analyze the situation and try and really understand what the problem is.
The strength of the Institute stems from the tremendous foundational research that the Institute conducts.
I think Pacific Institute has really leveraged the power of convening. They have consistently brought together different types of industries and entities to help align and address our shared water challenges.
The one thing which impresses me most about the Pacific Institute is how well they are able to act as a catalyst to enable collaboration across different stakeholders to solve the water crisis.
The partnership between the UN Global Compact and the Pacific Institute is one that goes back to 2007. Over time, this has grown to a very broad-based coalition addressing water around the world.
I think what PI has been able to do through the convening power is actually build coalitions of confidence.
Probably the most important thing we need to solve these challenges is to build trust. And the Pacific Institute has maintained that gold standard of trust. In a sense, it's a guide star defining definitive science, definitive data, so that institutions, governments, agencies have a source to turn to.
You have decades of experience and a reputation for being able to create scientifically based good documents that are readable.
We have moved from simply producing the research around issues pertaining to water to developing that research and the evidence base and then making sure it is connected to the decision makers that ultimately are deciding how water is managed in any particular region. So we have built our capability to connect more with those decision makers and build relationships with them and the networks that make sure that our ideas are leading to change in the world.
We focused in on water resilience for a couple of reasons. One is that we saw the intensifying effects of climate change, and we know that those impacts are only going to get worse. But secondly, because we have a long history of working on climate change. We've been talking about the risks, looking at solutions, and so we saw 2030 as really an opportunity to put those two pieces together and really drive towards durable and lasting change.
One of the very first things we did at the Institute was to look at the implications of climate change for water resources. We've continued to play a leading role in thinking about how climate change will affect water resources, but then think about how to both adapt to climate change and make our water resources more resilient.
So we've set a goal to catalyze the transformation to water resilience in the face of climate change. We're honing in on 4 key aspects of water resilience. The first is around water climate, and social equity. This is about making sure that frontline communities, typically those that are affected first and worst by the impacts of climate change on water, that their needs are addressed in the solutions that we put forward.
Our work on nature-based solutions is really looking at ways that ecosystems, either by protecting or restoring them, can help build resilience for communities so that they are able to withstand the impacts of climate change.
If you have healthy, functioning ecosystems, wetlands in particular, you are going to better manage against flood risk for communities that are in flatland areas, and you're going to be able to clean water in the cheapest way possible.
The Institute has been instrumental in developing the business case for nature-based solutions. You know, this is not, you need to do this because it's good for nature or it's good for the planet. This is a business case. And so they're speaking the right language, and they're doing it in terms that people understand and will move the needle.
Water efficiency and reuse is looking at how we can eliminate wasting of water and look at opportunities to be reusing and recycling water.
These are the cheapest ways of ensuring that we have resilient water supply. And we've got loads of science and data that can show they are the most cost-effective way of doing this. The last category is around corporate water stewardship. And this is really because we think there's an untapped potential for companies to play a positive role in this change that we're seeking. And we think, therefore, really enabling companies to be good stewards of water will allow us to accelerate progress toward a more resilient future.
Our long-term partnership with the Pacific Institute and the UN Global Compact has set a number of milestones. It's visionary that we have corporate commitment at the highest level. It's visionary that we continue to mobilize companies, not through philanthropy, but actually through them shifting their operations, their supply chains, and the way that they do business in country and through their various operations around the world.
I do believe we can solve our problems. There are smart, innovative people, smart, innovative solutions happening all over the world in each of the areas that the Pacific Institute addresses. And we have to push them forward more quickly. We have to accelerate action on them.
I really encourage everyone to support the organization financially. Things must change, and we want to make the change happen.
The beauty of what Pacific Institute does is it actually makes a difference. And so I would want anyone to do whatever they can.
I do believe the Pacific Institute has a multiplier effect. It works with hundreds of other organizations. So if you're a donor of the Pacific Institute, your contribution also is having a multiplier impact, because it is not only helping the Institute's direct work, it is inspiring the work of these hundreds of organizations and their other partner networks as well.